UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Welcome to UBC Business Roundup, your weekly digest of the latest business news and trending stories from within our borders and across. I'm your host, Joram Paul Sonko, and these are the highlights. Government appeals for CSO's support in its efforts to harness the oil resources. The 7th Annual Bankers Conference focuses on navigating the future of banking and adoption to environmental social governance, ESG. Central Bank closes Mercantile Credit Bank due to undercapitalization challenges. Tanzania's national debt surges to $39 billion. What next for East African community, most populous country? We have an exciting lineup of stories. Keep it locked on UBC and you won't get disappointed. Now, first on the agenda, the government is calling on civil society organizations to support its efforts to harness the oil and gas resources effectively. This was made at the 2nd Annual Joint Civil Society Organizations Conference, which centered on a just energy transition. Dennis Sigo reports.
This year's conference converged stakeholders from the public and private sector, as well as civil society organizations, to foster partnerships for sustainable development of oil and gas.
We want to continue to encourage more areas of collaboration and urge you all to advocate for a just energy transition for Uganda to develop and benefit from the petroleum industry, but also the opportunities that abound with the energy transition plan, including jobs that will be created as we transition.
The theme, Bridging Consensus on Uganda Energy Transition Plan, calls for a unified agenda on key issues related to oil and gas exploitation and a just transition.
So how has been your relationship with the CSOs?
CSOs, we have been always quality relationship. That we have engaged regularly with them, and they have responded to our questioning, and they are questioners they have questioned on some aspect that has pushed us to do better in some aspect of our business.
Along the way, we have bettered the relationship, and we are glad as civil society organizations that we are able to have regular platforms for engagement with the authorities in government, but also we are able to discuss constructively on technical issues like the energy transition.
The conference comes at a critical time as Uganda fast-tracks its investments to meet the 2025 oil production timeline. However, this commercialization push coincides with the global energy transition agenda on combating climate change.
The electric mobility industry and our drive around using electricity for transportation, we are looking at it in two ways: supporting the vehicles, but also supporting the three-wheelers, the border-borders. So this endeavor is not just a government endeavor. We are entering partnerships. So we are partnering with the private sector to ensure that they invest in electric mobility. So what the ministry is doing is, one, ensure there is a strategy to support the electric mobility agenda. Our energy policy already underpins that. And what we are now doing are just demonstrations. We've done it with GIZ. We set up some charging stations for border borders along the Masaka Highway, but also along the Gulu Highway, to demonstrate and create and incentivize the population to adopt these e-mobility solutions.
Oil and gas is pretty much still a very important factor in Uganda's energy mix. we shall still continue to see a growth in the consumption, in the demand of petroleum products within the short, medium, and even long term, within the visibility of what we can see until at least up to 2060. We are likely to continue seeing a growth in petroleum products. So it is very important that we maintain the investment in the oil and gas projects.
Energy transition is a major structural change to energy supply and consumption, involving a shift from primary reliance of fossil fuels for energy to renewable sources aimed at reducing carbon emissions. Government of Uganda has emphasized the need to merge economic development and climate action for a true and just transition, and thus it calls upon the civil society organizations to support it in its endeavors.
Private sector players are urged to strategize and invest wisely in order to tap into the business opportunities that come with the 2024-2025 year budget. The appeal was made at the post-budget dialogue organized by the Private Sector Foundation Uganda, aimed at raising awareness of the 2024-2025 budget among its members. Check the details.
345 companies in Africa have revenue of $1 billion or more. But of these companies, 40%, that is 147 companies, are headquartered in South Africa, in one country. 33 in Egypt, 23 in Nigeria, 20 in Morocco, 6 in Kenya. You make a guess, how many in Uganda? We need to make a claim on this important statistic going forward. How? Tenfold growth strategy is the only route to having a claim on this important statistic.
This is a good budget for the private sector, good budget for an average Ugandan. I would want really those people who want to make money to follow the government policy. Government has put clearly good signals on where you can take advantage and make money. ATMs are going to mint money in agriculture, in tourism, in minerals, and in STI. Anything beyond that, don't expect government money there. If you are following government money and policy, those are the areas.
You see, economic growth is not a one-time off. It's a process. Now, one challenge we've faced before, which we now see government trying to address, is running like headless chicken. How? You're putting very tiny little resources all over the place, and you have no focus in terms of which priority sectors you need to grow. Now, tourism sector, there are key areas of investment like infrastructure. If you manage internal flights, if you manage our key strategic roads, you can even write off our international debt in just 5 years, which is about now give and take 93 trillion. If we invest in mining, for which now, of course, we've seen a reduction in the mining budget, which we think is a mistake on the part of government. Yes, we are rushing to oil and gas, but again, our mining potential stands at $620 billion US. So if you invest just in that sector, strategic infrastructure, avoid speculation, invest in artisanal small-scale miners, formalize that space, you're able to easily write off the budget. So what we are saying is, even for instance, when you borrow, and for which again we thank government that when you borrow, you invest in those strategic sectors that spur growth, as opposed to borrowing to paying salary or paying another debt. So, and we see government really investing in that. So every monies that have been borrowed for the next financial year, about 18 trillion, is going to those productive sectors, SGR, tourism infrastructure, and those other strategic sectors that would spur growth.
We have a wonderful idea.
Elsewhere, Ramadan Gobi, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, has assured the public on the stability of Uganda's economy and the health of the financial sector. This follows the closure of Mercantile Credit Bank over the failure to resolve undercapitalization challenges and poor corporate governance. Check the details.
Let me tell you, a healthy financial system is the one which very quickly flushes out any risky financial institution in terms of governance, in terms of ability to fulfill the obligations they have or contractual obligations, this time with the depositors particularly, and other partners of the financial institution, so that they keep people's money safe. And in Uganda we have a robust system which was put in place by the central bank to sniff out any issues. And wherever they are sniffed out, those financial institutions are dealt with. If it requires liquidation, like the Mercantile Credit Bank, which has been put under closure, it is for the benefit of the owners of the money, so that they don't lose their money. When I read the report, they have had the unfortunate incidents where one of the directors, the shareholders of the bank, could not capitalize and also could not get partners, and because he had been sanctioned by other jurisdictions, and this unfortunate thing caused the bank some liquidity challenges, because whenever a financial institution faces liquidity challenge, it's up to the shareholders to recapitalize like any other business. But this time it was not very easy for them to recapitalize, and they went under.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, the 7th Annual Bankers Conference focused on navigating the future of banking and readiness to adapt to environmental, social governance, as well as sustainability and digital transformation. We have a detailed story from Mario Nawori and a sideline interview with Sheria Ali, MasterCard East Africa Country Manager. Check this out.
Environmental, social governance considerations continue to garner global attention across various industries, including financial services sector. Financial institutions occupy a pivotal position in addressing ESG risks because they direct capital towards transformative investments and projects that are sustainable and bring about inclusivity.
So we have a framework. We came together to collaborate, and it's very important. It's not all competition all the time. At times as an industry, for the common good, for the benefit of a Ugandan, at times you have to come together and collaborate.
Banks need to come together to appreciate the fact that we are tier 1 banks. Tier 1 banks need to have a framework specific for tier 1 banks on how they are going to handle all the 3 E, S and G. Tier 2 banks the same, the telcos the same. And at the same spirit, you need to see how to cascade this information to your customers. For example, as MDP, we do eco-friendly debit cards and credit cards. So if you give your customer a card, then ask yourself, how am I contributing towards ESG?
As the regulatory landscape rapidly evolves to support the accelerated shift towards a sustainable future, the call for collaboration among Uganda's financial industry has been made.
As you develop your policies, as you look at the different frameworks that have been put in place by the different, whether regulators or government or yourselves, as you work on your digitization journey and bring those components to support data, to support access for your customers, the conversations with your customers, etc., that time in a way is not on our side, and therefore we need to accelerate and become more agile as we do this. The impacts on our customers, the impact on our different stakeholders, the impacts on our products and services, and the impacts on the relationships that we create continue to be very important.
When you look at the social vertical, which is very important. So if you have a strategy, let's say executive committee, and in that strategy it's only men, and you don't have women, and you don't have minorities, let's say, or a diversity included in that, then you're not getting the full picture. Yeah, you have to get the full picture by hearing these voices, right? And then designing your strategy which is sustainable.
Ramadan Gobi, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance, says a number of frameworks are in the pipeline aimed at mitigating ESG challenges in Uganda. According to various speakers at the annual Bankers Conference, embracing ESG is more than a regulatory requirement, but a strategic move towards enduring sustainability and resilience in a dynamic business environment.
Climate change has become a key point in major discussions, both locally and globally. The same applies to the just concluded annual Bankers Conference in Kampala, where issues of environmental, social, and governance took center stage. I am Marion Awori for UBC.
When you look at the convention this time round, the theme is looking at ESG. And from your perspective or from your point of view, what do you think is ESG's impact, and how impactful is this to the banking industry in Uganda?
Excellent, thank you. Well, firstly, ESG has become a big focus area for all of the world, and Africa is no exception. And when you look around it, even in Uganda, you had floods this year. In Kenya, you had floods. There was impact in terms of crops and food security as well that could come on the back of it. So is it something that doesn't affect everybody? It's hard to argue that case. It affects all of us, right? And if that is the case, then this theme is absolutely on the money at UBA, where all the thought leaders from government, financial institutions, fintechs, merchants, processors, everybody comes together and tries to agree on at least 3 or 4 key action items, that we can walk away from this amazing conference from, and action. Now, E for environment, S for social, and G for governance. They are verticals in their own right. Environment is a very different vertical. We have our Priceless Planet Coalition, which we support. Many of the members inside there are already members of our coalition, where we plant trees in Makueni County in Kenya. We've got a site in Malawi, and we're looking for more sites, including in Uganda. So that's one. Carbon calculator, which tells you how much is your CO2 footprint every month, which you can just see on your mobile banking app, and then pay to plant trees to offset your footprint. That's also coming in. We just launched it in February in Uganda. And then you look at the social vertical, which is very important. So if you have a strategy, let's say executive committee, and in that strategy it's only men, and you don't have women, and you don't have minorities, let's say, or a diversity included in that, then you're not getting the full picture. Yeah, you have to get the full picture by hearing these voices, right? And then designing your strategy which is sustainable. Half the world is women. You cannot have a strategy without having them on the table. So I think that is another vertical. And governance, I think Dr. Titi covered that a lot in the conference. So yeah, that's also super important.
Now let's look at the point of MasterCard. Over the years, MasterCard has been very impactful, and they've been laying out different initiatives to support African economies. And in this particular situation of the banking sector in Uganda, what's your position like?
So we want to see a thriving, trusted, strong and growing financial ecosystem. That's what we want, right? Now, whatever role we need to play in that to achieve that target or goal is what we are going to support our customers and partners with. And it can only happen through collaboration, right? So if it's digital transformation, you can see this. This is a payment device. You can tap this device and actually make a payment if you're a youth, right? So if your bank today wants to go and give you, you're a young man, so if they give you this, you can, it's a very different experience versus on the phone you're putting in your OTPs and all of that. But stepping back a little bit, youth and the future generations are not that far away. The average median age is 19 years in East Africa. That means we will show the world what
18 to 24.
Correct, 18 to 24. We will show the world as to what is the future of payments or future of banking, because our customers will come into the financial institutions' banking, let's say, remit quicker than maybe other countries. So I think we need to be ahead of the curve. We need to leapfrog when it comes to technology. And it's okay. You have to take calculated risks. Some risks will work very well. Some you'll fine-tune and you still make it successful.
And now let's look at MasterCard in general. What do you have as MasterCard? You've told me off camera that there is a certain launch that MasterCard had, or you have new offices within the country. Tell us more about that.
So, not yet, but for example, we are really delighted and honored that we have set up our company in Uganda. It's called OPS MasterCard Uganda, OPS for Orient Payment Solutions, and we are in the process of licensing it. And we have highlighted a couple of areas where we want our office to be. So before the end of this year, our office should be up and running. And we're so proud of the hard work that the team has done to localize ourselves from a presence perspective. Because you see, if you're present in the market, you can engage beyond the UBA, which is a great forum, on a day-to-day basis. And I'm so happy that we have 4 team members who are actually based out of Uganda. Also, I want to be mindful, and I'm really proud of the fact that the MasterCard East Africa team, 68% of them are women. They are fighters, they're visionaries, they are thought leaders, and I couldn't be prouder of this team making the impact that we're making in East Africa.
Well, this is it from the 7th Annual Bankers Conference of 2024, organized by the Uganda Bankers Association, where issues dealing with environment, social and governance have been key on the agenda. But besides that, various players within Uganda's economy and the banking industry have been part and parcel of these conversations right here at the Kampala Serena Hotel. And as you can see, I've also been dressed more like a banker today. But that aside, from the entire team, the Business Roundup, I am Joram Paul Sonko.
So I'm very happy. This is just the beginning. Okay, shukran. Thank you so much.
First of all, I want to convey the regard from Highness Sheikh Dr. Sultan Al-Qasimi, ruler of Sharjah. Especially he say, make salam, give salam to the president.
Salam.
Walaikum salam. And he's following the project, and we are doing quite good. Your Excellency, at the beginning we finished the design and also the building, runway. We chose the right land, and we are in the good progress now. Today we're going to show you the design of the international airport.
Okay.
Already there.
Okay.
If you're allowing us, we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tanzania's national debt rose to $35 billion by the end of the first quarter, marking a 19% increase from the previous year. Amid concerns over the surging debt, Finance Minister Mwigulu Nchemba has assured that this will have limited effect on the country's financial obligations.
Tanzania's national debt rose to $35 billion by the end of the first quarter, marking a 19% increase from the previous year. Finance Minister Mwigulu Nchemba has been working hard to ease concerns about the surge in the country's financial obligations.
These funds have been directed towards development projects with significant national benefits, including road infrastructure, a modern railway, airports, and electricity generation projects.
Economic analysts suggest ordinary citizens are the most affected by the country's borrowing.
With a quarter of the country's budget allocated to debt repayment and considering ongoing debt growth with interest, there's a risk it could impede self-reliance and hinder national goals.
The government says the country's debt has also increased due to the depreciation of the Tanzanian shilling against the US dollar amid global financial distress and the issuance of bonds to finance social security funds. Despite this, the International Monetary Fund views Tanzania as the least indebted nation in Africa with an official debt-to-GDP ratio of 46%. African governments are struggling to strike a balance between incurring more debt and growing their economies. The United Nations says Africa's public debt will remain higher than before the pandemic in 2024 and 2025, with many countries still at risk of falling into debt trouble as they struggle to pay off international loans. Analysts suggest that the Tanzanian government should effectively attract more investments to boost revenue collection, stimulate the economy, and reduce reliance on expensive borrowing.
The problem lies in focusing only on filing tax system gaps and expanding the tax bracket without considering how taxpayers can increase their productivity and ability to pay taxes to service the debts.
The government has not ruled out further borrowing to finance its development goals. It hopes that achieving its projected 5.4% growth this year and providing long-term benefits to citizens will justify the incurred debt. Isaac Lukando, CGTN, Dar es Salaam.
In our Sounds of Business today, Northern Corridor partner states are exploring ways to harmonize use of safe and efficient airspace and lower cost of air travel. The Airspaces Management Cluster under the Northern Corridor Integration Projects, currently coordinated and chaired by Rwanda, convened this week at the Hotel Mile Collins in Kigali, Rwanda. The Airspaces Management Cluster is expected to come up with recommendations towards fulfilling these expectations during the planned 15th Summit of Heads of State of Northern Corridor Integration Projects in October 2024. Not every fight is your fight. Some fights are worth ignoring and some are worth losing. Know your fight. As we go again next week, you are reminded to choose your battles and hustles wisely. Now until next weekend, from myself and the business team, it's a goodbye for now.